Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Zarate with CRN TV, here with MobileIron's Russell Mohr to talk about 5G security and why it's important to the channel. Thank you for joining me today, Russell.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on. So Russell, with your expertise, what's happening with 5G right now?
We're going to see a lot more consumer 5G, and we're already seeing accelerations of the rollout. Some of that's based on the pandemic, right? 5G becomes more crucial. It's more important to have high bandwidth when everybody's dispersed. And the other thing that we're seeing with 5G is I think there's going to be a big user behavior change. So users that are used to joining Wi-Fi networks aren't going to do that so much anymore. And the reason is because 5G is much faster in many cases than the Wi-Fi network that they were joining.
And what have you been hearing from customers?
The businesses that we deal with that are most likely to be concerned about 5G and can they trust it right now, that's actually beginning in the federal space. And that's because there's a lot of government mandates around 5G. For instance, the State Department has issued an RFI called the Clean Path to 5G. And there are certain networks that they don't trust. And those networks quite often will have untrusted supply chain elements in them. So that's actually one of the things that we are helping our government customers address. And that's because we have some intelligence. We're constantly checking with the devices and we can see details around the devices, including, hey, what network are you connected to right now? And what carrier is that? And where are you? And so those are things that we can actually take into account when we build our policies around, do we trust or not trust a device?
So what advice do you have for the channel as we're talking about the current trend of 5G security?
Your endpoint protection should also not be limited to desktop. So like a lot of the leading solutions out there today are looking at like Windows or Windows and Mac OS. And they're not looking at Android and they're not looking at iOS. And as a matter of fact, we've seen that there are more vulnerabilities on these operating systems now, and that the honeypot has actually moved to mobile. So I think that the channel needs to pay a lot of attention to that. They need to get educated around zero trust models and what Gartner is calling SASE. And I think organizing their portfolios around building cyber defenses that are based on one of those two philosophies.
Now let's talk about mobile security in the 5G era. How has that evolved, especially during this time?
From a mobile standpoint, we've seen that the operating systems have become much more sophisticated. They've evolved very quickly to respond to evolving threats and zero-day vulnerabilities. But we've also found is as quickly as they move, there's a whole suite of malicious actors that are moving just a little bit faster than them.
So how has MobileIron addressed some of those concerns around security?
So we've always had products that allowed us to manage and secure mobile devices. We have a really robust policy engine, and we're constantly checking with devices to see if they're safe. We're looking at their posture. So are they rooted or jailbroken? Have they been lost and not reported to the organization? Do they have the appropriate apps on them? And are they using the right identity? For instance, when we do a Face ID or a facial recognition authentication, is it actually the user that's supposed to be using that device that is trying to get into that service? Whether that service is something that sits on your company's network or more commonly today, a service that has moved to the cloud like email with Office 365.
And in late September, our Rick Whiting reported IT asset and service management software developer Avanti is acquiring MobileIron as well as PulseSecure. So how will this acquisition address the needs of remote workers with remote work as the new normal?
We think that we have a very complementary suite of solutions. So MobileIron brings universal endpoint management, the ability to manage iOS and Android and Windows 10 and Mac OS devices. So we think that it's a win-win-win. All three of the solutions are really complementary, and they'll allow us to address new shifts in the security space as they arise.